pop on the headphones and welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I was excited. You've been on my radar for a long time. I just had no idea how to even get in contact with you, and I think it was fate when one day I was talking to my dad, and he goes, "Do you know a Brian Munoz?" I was like, "Do I?" Been watching his films for a while, you know. Yeah, awesome. I've seen your submittals into GIF and stuff like that, and this is cool. Film is, I don't know a lot of in-depth history about it, but I really enjoy watching, and I've always wanted to like make my own movie and stuff.
Oh man, yeah.
And
happy to help out in that situation.
Yeah, so when he gave me your card, I was like, okay, let me just, and then I lost it, and then I found it, and I was like, all right, before I lose it again, I gotta at least text him, and then the card goes away, right?
Yeah.
And you hit me back, and I was like, let's make this happen. And you are the last podcast episode this year.
Oh wow, I feel so honored. The pressure's on.
Right. So you gotta make it a good one. No,
I know.
I'm just joking.
I'll do my best. Hopefully, people can learn something about filming.
Yeah, for sure. Where did you get started at? Just pull the mic close to you, closer
right
to you. Yeah. Like that. Yeah, you can. It's not a normal broadcast mic, so you want to talk in front of the mic.
Okay,
rather
right
than,
here.
Yeah. There you go.
Got it.
Adjust as needed. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Where'd you get started?
Well, back in, I want to say 2007, I got into to shooting weddings and funerals.
Okay.
So it was either really low, like feeling kind of, depression kind of filming.
Yeah.
And then it was weddings. So.
Yeah. I would imagine it would be pretty difficult to film a funeral.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you make that flow into sort of how do I say this? To make it watchful, meaningful, but being able to watch it.
Honestly, and I asked a lot of people that actually I've done funerals for. They don't watch it, until like years later. Oh. So because it's hard, they're for grieving, sure. And I guess I usually meet with the family, and when we have those meetings, it's almost awkward because they just lost a loved one, for and sure. They're still emotional. So I'm trying to understand what parameters I have when I'm filming the funeral.
I see, like where can I stand? Where is it okay for me? Can I put it up close here? Yeah,
can I film you while you're tearing up, or do you want to see the body? It's very morbid in a way. Yeah,
for sure.
But it's just being respectful, and but I guess from there I was just like, I remember editing a funeral one night, and I was so heavy into the edit that I forgot to turn on all the lights in the house. And it was like late at night, and I was trying to get it done, and I was just focusing on the casket, and then I realized all the lights were off, and I was just like, okay, I'm done filming funerals. And on the opposite spectrum, I was like, I'm done filming weddings because, and I still actually, every now and then I do a wedding, but I decided to stop doing the funerals and the weddings. And from there, I just decided, like, okay, I got this camera. What am I going to do with it?
Yeah.
And I ran into my friend Jeff, who wanted to do these YouTube videos, and we just started messing around. So that's how the filmmaking, I think, really started and kicked off.
Have you always been interested in films? Writing scripts? And
definitely. Since I was 8th grade, I really liked, this is going to sound bad, but I really like Michael Bay movies.
Okay.
I liked explosions. And John Woo movies. So a lot of action, a lot of, special effects. And later on, I decided, someone's making money doing this stuff. Why can't I do that? So I've always wanted to be a filmmaker, but I just never had the opportunity to actually purchase a camera while I was growing up or anything. So,
For sure. Did you ever go to school for it? For any try and get a major in filmmaking or directing?
No, honestly, I actually was looking into the San Francisco Art Institute. I actually took a tour there when I was out in the Bay Area, and it didn't work out for me. I ended up graduating in psychology. And I figured, like, if I know psychology, then I understand the human condition, then I could tell better stories with people.
For sure.
So everything was self-taught. It started out with Google, and then YouTube was like starting to blow up.
So you're super indie.
Super indie, like most filmmakers on island. I hope they don't get offended when they hear this, but we all learn from the internet.
Yeah, for sure.
And books. So,
yeah, I mean, people learn how to play guitar strictly just being on the internet.
I know. It's amazing. We live in a great time to
really
learn.
Great time.
We just don't get the paper.
Yeah.
So the experience came from just asking the question, how come our news doesn't look like stateside news? And why does it look, You
start looking at quality.
Yeah, quality. Like, why is that guy look like he's moving a little slower but better? And then, you understand it's like 24 frames per second, and that's motion picture.
Right.
And broadcast is like 30 frames. It's like technical, right? But it was something that bothered me because I was like trying to find this image that I couldn't get with my regular camcorder.
Yeah.
I mean, you could now with editing and stuff, but I was just
but not the clarity that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Right? I noticed in your films that you like to focus on up close action.
Yes.
Whether it's really small actions, whether she's tugging on her bracelet or the back of her neck, the way the necklace moves on the back of the neck. Is that some sort of?
Nice. Notice that. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
You're like the first person that said, "Oh, you like close-ups."
Yeah.
Just because those things, I like to look at symbolism, and maybe it might not even make sense to the viewer, but the little objects, the little things you focus on, sometimes they have the most dramatic impact to me.
Yeah.
A lot of people that know me know that I like to shoot the back of people's heads, like as an intro.
I noticed that. I did.
Character.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like it's because you're kind of we're moving in toward this character's back of the head, and you're not knowing what they look like, and it's kind of mysterious, and you don't know what they're thinking of. So that's, for me, it's like I try to bring in the psychology part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's where the good part of majoring in psychology is, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I got to talk to, and I'm still a counselor now, but I spent some time in my internship in DOC with a lot of inmates. So I got, like in my early 20s, I was working with them and hearing their stories, and I was just like, wow, like I'm experiencing life through other people's eyes.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was a darker side. So I also have a tendency to write darker. Maybe it's because I started out with funerals and I went to DOC.
Yeah, for sure.
Feel like I was in prison, So
I think you blazed this darkened path yourself.
Yeah, and it's funny because even the most uplifting script that my fiance read, it was still pretty dark, but she was like, wow, you actually had like a very positive message.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, okay, cool. I didn't even know that it was going toward positive, but I mean, you saw that. That's cool.
Yeah, it seemed, oh shit, how rude of me on my own show.
I'm just going to pop this open.
Yeah.
Not sponsored.
Coconut water. Oh man, yeah, coconut water. Dude, yeah, I was going to drink one earlier this morning, and I put it on my Instagram story. I wasn't going to drink it because it was warm.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute. Coconut water's warm to begin with. What am I doing?
You almost got me on that. I was like, why? What's wrong with it? Being...
Dude, I was like, are you kidding me?
It's true. We could pretty much pick that off our backyard. And, but, we want the added sugar.
Yeah, for sure.
Calories.
Yeah, going back to the way you like to focus on minor movements and stuff like that. I don't even know where to go from there. It's sort of I saw it as your real focus into human movement. One thing I saw about Mighty Island was they focused a lot on landscape, and then when I watched your stuff, I was like, oh man, it's very humanistic touch. Even though you speak of your dark nature, like a Dexter,
Dexter with hopefully some kind of positive person. I mean, someone likes me, someone's gonna marry me, right? That's a good thing. Yeah, but I guess I didn't know that it would be like some kind of style when I was getting into it.
Yeah,
it was more like oh, that looks interesting, the way you move your hand or the way you touch that necklace, because it's meaningful to them.
Right.
And sometimes when I work with actors, I like to ask them, like, what is something that's meaningful to you that you want to bring on set? That way, if they needed to evoke some kind of emotion, they have that. And we call it in counseling like an anchor, you know, something that reminds them of something.
Yeah.
So, and it's precious to them. And I feel like on Guam, and I'm not saying that there's not enough actors. Well, there's not enough actors because, you know, we use a lot of the same actors, right? But when you're working on Guam in film, you're working with a lot of non-actors.
Mm-hmm.
And so
it's a lot of raw talent, if anything, right? Rather than taught talent.
Yes. And I try not to, when I work with actors, I try not to make them be somebody else. Obviously, they're not going to come in, you know, like some Chamorro guy. I'm Chamorro, right?
Yeah.
And speak in a Scottish accent. I'm not going to expect them to do that right away, you know? So usually when I'm writing, I'm thinking of different people on island that I've come across, and I'll say, hey, you know, I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I'd like to work on a film with you because you remind me of something.
Yeah.
And then I'll go in and write a script later on, and I'll contact them. Sometimes it'll be like months or years later. And I'll be like, okay, I got this script for you. What do you want to do with it now?
Yeah.
You know, so.
Did you get right into script writing when you decided that you wanted to make films, or was it more cinematographic films? And
Yeah, you know, cinematography would be the first thing.
Wait, did I say that right? Cinematographic?
You're close enough.
Okay.
I was just trying to be nice.
Okay. No, you can correct me.
Okay,
Dude.
it's just cinematography.
Okay. I was sitting there. I was like, wait, did I just make up my own word?
You know, there's cinegraphs now, so you're not too far from it. You know, that's like an Instagram thing, right? No, I started writing out of necessity, and it was because no one else I knew at the time was writing. So I work at court, and before Java Junction used to be right across the court. I'm not like sponsored by them or anything. Okay,
not a shameless plug.
Not a shameless plug at all, but and then there was traffic going on because of the Sinahania road construction, and I had to get home, but it would take me like an hour or two to get home because of that road work.
Right.
So I started just going to Java Junction, and I was like, okay, what am I going to do with 2 hours? So I started writing. And like, I could honestly say, like, when I first wrote, it was pretty bad. Like, it was horrible.
How old were you?
I was probably, I like to say 24, 25 when I started writing scripts.
Okay.
And I actually have a lot in the backlog, you know, like just hoping to become a movie at some point.
Well, building on it, right?
Yeah, and I build on it, and sometimes I look back at it and I combine it, but like when I read the writing, it's so bad. Yeah. You know, the first short film I ever attempted to do was written like the first time I ever wrote. And, you know, I feel bad because everybody was like so gung-ho and they were with me, and I failed miserably on it, you know, like I watched the cut that I did. I laughed at a lot of the lines that I wrote. You know, I screen it with the people that work with me, and they watch it, and they're all so serious because they're so into it. Even the actors, and I even acted in it, you know, like I was probably like 85 pounds less, so I thought I could act. And then I would laugh, and they would look at me like, that's a serious scene. Why are you laughing? I was like, because who writes that line? That was me. Yeah, I wrote that. You know? And
I would write that line.
Yeah. So writing started in a coffee shop. So I have this thing now where I go to coffee shops. It's weird. Like I'll go to any coffee shop.
Yeah, it's sort of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I feel like I write the best in coffee shops.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be the best coffee shop.
It can just be any
coffee shop, as long as they have coffee. Even the coffee is horrible, I'll drink it because it just makes me want to write for some reason.
Right. You ever put yourself in an uncomfortable situation to think about things you want to do or put on film?
Well, you know, my most uncomfortable situation for me in filming would be filming like a romance. Like, people have asked me to do that. Why? Just because, you know, it's not like I have a cold heart. You know, I just feel like it's hard for me to write.
Like tap into emotions?
Not tap into emotions, because I feel like a lot of the emotions I'm writing, it's pretty emotional to me, but when it comes to romance,
you don't want to be crying while you're writing. Like,
yeah, you know, like I don't know
shit,
how,
man.
you know, like how, like let's say this is old and people gonna know how old I am, but like Freddie Prinze Jr. chases a chick into the airport. I mean,
She's
a girl.
all
I'm sorry.
Oh, wait.
For the listeners.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
But and like he delivers that speech that gets her back.
Yeah.
I could never do that because I'm so grounded in realism. Like I'd be like, oh, you know what? I think she's just gonna go on the airplane and leave him.
Yeah.
And that's the ending.
Or how Adam Sandler in The Wedding Singer shows up in the airplane and he sings a whole song.
Yeah, but that was like really good writing, you know.
Yeah,
I thought it was pretty good. But yeah, I haven't gotten to that point yet, and I tried a couple of times to do that. It just always came off to me as corny. But maybe that's something where, like, you're right. Like, I need to let it go and actually say, hey, can you read this?
Yeah. I mean, I find it. I've written a bunch of songs, and it was some of the songs really tapped into my emotions, and exposing those emotions to other people when I played in front of them really made me afraid to continue writing. Like, oh man, shit, they're gonna know how I think or how I feel, or you know, if this is really me. Who did I just have on the show? And I was asking them about who did I have on the show, and I was asking them about just recently. Oh my gosh, did so many episodes this month. Can't even remember all the conversations that I was having, but we were talking about how being afraid of being exposed, that sort of exposure of to other people through the emotions, like, oh my gosh, this is it was Matt Sablon. Was it Matt Sablon? I think it was Matt Sablon. He's a musician. Yeah. And you know, writing about stuff, and I think it was multiple musicians that I had. Anyways, I don't want to screw myself up here.
Well, you know, I think as a musician and artist in general, you're gonna wear your heart on your sleeve.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
You're gonna put yourself in a very vulnerable.
That's
position,
who it was.
right?
Yeah, it was Jed.
Oh,
it was
okay.
Jed. So
yeah, it's funny. I saw him at the coffee shop.
Yeah, so I was asking him. I was like, "Do you ever write songs, emotional songs?" And have a fear that people are gonna judge you based off the song they hear, like certain things you write, whether it's about low-key sex or low-key hookup or whatever it may be. Are you afraid that people are gonna think it's you and that's sort of the person that you are, or do you have to really detach from being like, this is me today, but when I detach from myself, I almost like transform into this other being, right?
Metamorphosis.
Yeah.
Well, for me, you know, there were some things I write, and people closest to me, they'd read it and they'd be like, "Are you gonna turn that into a film?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they'll say stuff like, "Well, aren't you worried about what people are gonna think about you?" And I say, you know, when you go to the movies and you see like Tom Cruise or, you know, who's a famous young actor right now doing some crazy roles, you know, and when they go home, no one's judging them.
Right.
You know, because they understand it's fiction. Be it that when we write stuff, we're inspired by things. Like a lot of things I write about, I'm inspired by. You know, so one day I'd be writing like, actually wrote like a lot of 1-minute shorts in like a span of like 2 hours. And one of them's on lust. It's just about a guy really lusting after this girl who's dancing in front of him, and he's married, you know, and it's kind of like, people on Guam might say like, oh, you know, you shouldn't go there, you know, but it's a film.
It's taboo, right?
People go and watch 50 Shades of Grey and they have no problem with that, you know? It's like, Twilight was pretty bad, you know, like promoting like you could be in love with your friend and your
Brian
boyfriend
would write something like that.
Yeah. And how dare he? Hey, go watch Twilight. What are your daughters watching, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, like, I've kind of gotten over that. I think when we did Luther, that was the first time I actually like hung to my seat, because, you know, I wrote Luther and
I didn't get to watch the whole thing. I watched the trailer like a million times, but
yeah, it's like a lot of people haven't watched it. We haven't released it, and I need to talk to the guys about just releasing it online. And it's, you know, it's got a lot of work still. We were still kind of fresh when we did that, and it was surprising to just, you know, take home the award that night, because I was like, oh, this is so rough, but people still liked it. That was awesome. that was the first time I felt vulnerable, you know, like
Right.
like sitting on my seat and like some of the lines I'm just like, you know, like brushing my eyebrow and like closing my eyes. And,
Yeah. Is that for fear of judgment though?
and I think it was, you know, I think it was like, what are people gonna think? And then people came and they criticized it personally to me, and I just started like, oh yeah, you know, you're right, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
So
It's always get bad critics, bad reviews.
You know,
I mean, that's the only way to grow, right?
I don't get hurt by it.
Yeah.
Some people get hurt by it. I try to be.
What's your first inclination or your first thought whenever a bad critique comes to you? Because even for this podcast, I get bad critiques.
Oh, really?
You know, yeah, like hey man, you know, you should start doing this or not doing this, and I'm like, oh, okay, you know, and I'll consider it, right?
Yeah.
And so, what is your first impression when someone comes up to you and just sort of?
Well, I mean, as long as they're not just trying to be an ass to be an ass,
Right,
you know what I mean? Like if they have,
like not being a dick about it.
yeah,
Right?
you know, like I just want to
Yo,
bash
bro,
you.
your movie really sucked.
And you know, there's people on Facebook, you know, they do that, right? They bash you just to kind of get in on the scene, you know, and but I don't entertain that. I take the criticism where people actually have like valid points. But then again, I'm welcome to all criticism. I even called out the audience, you know, and said, if you guys have criticism, right now is the best time to say it because we're all here and we can answer your questions. And, you know, I think Guam's still pretty nice, you know, like everyone's going to tell you you're doing a good job. And I'm like, hell no, that wasn't a good job. I know it wasn't a good job because I did that. That was pretty bad to me, you know. And sometimes my fiance has to tell me, like, you know, you should appreciate your films more because, you know,
yeah, but an artist,
people worked on it. And I'm like,
an artist they're their own worst critic, right?
yeah. And so when people, my first thing when they come up to me would be like, okay, I'll hear what you have to say. And then I'll respond if I have to. But if it's something where I feel like you're just nitpicking because you just want to be an ass, you know, then it's, yeah, you know, I don't really entertain it. But there are people where I actually have conversations. Like we sit down over coffee and they're just like, this is what was wrong with your film. What do you think you need to do? And I'm like, well, you know, you're right about that. So the criticism helps me to become a better filmmaker, I think. Because if I didn't get that, if Guam just kept telling me I'm doing a good job, I'm going to go out there to LA and I would be like the suckiest filmmaker ever.
Right.
And then they would be like, well, that was horrible. Didn't any of your friends ever tell you?
Yeah.
I mean, I think you should tell your friends. If you're a really good friend, you tell them they don't have talent.
Yeah, dude, I have friends that, you know, prior to doing the podcast and then friends that I've made during the podcast who both give me their real thoughts about the show, dude. And, you know, like I said, I really take into consideration of it. And some I do, some I don't. And it just really depends on the direction that I'm trying to take it ultimately. Because, right, as an artist, you're really just, the final goal and the final say is always you, right?
Yes.
And if you're going to change it according to what the population likes, then you kind of lose the stylistic approach that you have as an artist, and you're just a popular artist based off of what everybody likes, instead of never pushing the limit or creating controversy.
Yeah, and you know, I kind of like to surround myself with people like that. You know, like I'm not going to say the filmmaker's name, you'll probably know. But we both joke around that we're both assholes to each other. And it's just to each other because we can be, you know, and it's because we're being critical to each other. And then, like, my friends, they kind of know that I can be pretty straightforward with them, especially when it comes to, like, on set etiquette and things like that. But, I mean, you know, as a director, you're going to make decisions, like you said. And the final outcome, like, everything is your fault. You know, like, if your name's attached to that film, whether there was drama on set or not, at the end of the day, like, your name's on there and people are going to associate you with it, you know? And I can't say that I made the best films on Island either, you know? Like, there's a lot of really amazing filmmakers on Island.
For sure.
You know, I learn from every one of them. So I try to collaborate, too. I'm not trying to, like Brian Winnie Films is the only filmmaking person on Island. Like, that's not how films work. It's a very collaborative medium.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a very flat industry here. I don't know if that's is that a rude thing to say?
No, I think you're right on that. And I think
everybody's on the same level because there's nothing that's I don't want to keep digging myself a hole here.
Like, I think you're doing a good job on saying that it's flat because And yes, maybe some people might get offended. Like, what are you talking about? There is a film industry. But the truth is, honestly, like every person that's doing a film out there, other than doing commercial work where you get paid for it, and sometimes like I don't take on commercial work, even though there's money making opportunities, because I feel like it kills the creativity.
Yeah, for sure.
And
it's what the customer wants,
yeah,
right?
And I've done a couple of bad commercials. I won't say which ones because I'll never get hired again. But I mean, like I see them in the theater sometimes, and I'm just like, oh man, I'm responsible for that.
That's just maybe you judging
I'm looking
yourself
at the screen in my
too.
mind right now. If the audience can't see it, but I'm just like, oh, I had a moment there, you know.
Yeah.
So, but I really like collaborating with different filmmakers because they all have something. In the beginning, because the industry, the world was flat for filmmakers on island, but you know there was like a bunch of the older generation that were kind of getting into it and they were doing it, and then I guess maybe, I don't know if it's just commercial work is more profitable than filmmaking, because honestly, like, it's one of the arts that I think is still under supported.
Yeah, I agree. You know, a lot of the filmmakers that I know and that have been on this show, it's themselves budgeting their own movies or getting small donations or sponsorships. But like I said, there's no real entity that's pushing filmmakers to push higher or to push through certain barriers.
No,
and it really depends on indies, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're so indie on Guam. I always joked around with the other filmmakers, and you know, there's like a lot of this emphasis on like, we don't have this, so we can't do that. You know, just like 2 weeks ago, I was talking to Jace from A Long Drive Home, because we have conversations. We did the recent music video.
Amazing music video, by the way. I fucking had. All right, since we're on this, I didn't want to bring it up till later.
No,
since we're on this, dude. I had chills the whole time I watched it. From the moment you zoomed into her eyes, and their whole sort of life was
just in my mind.
Dude, right? I was like, what? I was like, huh? I was like, oh,
thank you for getting that.
Yeah,
Jeez,
fucking neck. The hairs on the back of my neck were standing. The hairs on my arm were standing. I was like, oh no, I got the feels.
Awesome.
Yeah, dude. I had very well put together, dude. Yeah.
The song was amazing.
Yeah, the song was badass. Like, that's one of those songs like, you sure that's from here? Right?
Yeah. And there's no way to not try to do your best on the music video.
And it's the guys from Flinched, right?
Yes. So some of them actually started A Long Drive Home. And, you know, it was very interesting. I didn't know the guys until earlier this year. Mm-hmm. My fiance is actually, you know, she's always looking out for me, right? So she heard them on the radio, and the whole time I thought "Breathe" was a song from people from off island,
from the
right?
States.
So you know, I was just like, oh, it's on Power 98 or whatever.
Oh, so it's been out for a while then.
Radio
the song?
100, yeah, it's been out actually for a while. So a lot of people like me thought that, okay, that's a cool song. I would actually sing it in the car until my fiance called me and she's like, are you listening to this band right now? Turn it to the station. And I turned it to the station, and then she was like, that's a local band. And I was like, no way, these guys have been playing for a while, it's a pretty good song, you know. And she was like, no, that's a local band, like, they're called A Long Drive Home. And I was like, even the name sounds like it's not from Guam,
right.
So I called Ryan Bustamante from Acoustic Attack, and I said, hey Ryan, like, my fiance is begging me to make a music video for these guys, so what can we do? And he called them up, and then that's how we all met. And you know, upon our first meeting, it was at Capricciosa. We were eating our spaghetti, and I got to meet the guys, and it was Jason Jonah at the time, and they had this passion about them, you know, that made me just like, okay, let's do this, you know, I want to do it. So it was really interesting, you know, how that turned out. And the eye thing, like I told the guys, I was like, I'm going to zoom into the eye, and then we're going to go into their mind, and the band is like the conscience. That's why there's a black background, and like, you know, you're telling them to say hello to each other.
Yeah. This is great insight, dude. This is insight that people won't get out of the music video.
Actually, you know, a lot of people don't know that the band's playing in a dark room, and that's supposed to be their her conscience, you know?
Yeah.
And it's flashing back to the memories, and all the memories are in slow motion, but like in real life, it's real time, and it's boring. Even the colors in the store is like very flat,
right?
You know?
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah,
we try to we try to go into like that detail. I was so excited by the song, that I went and wrote the script for the music video, which wasn't really too hard because they had the lyrics on the side, and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna put this visual here, this visual here.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the band wrote the script. I mean, you know, a lot of people might think that I wrote the script for it, but the song
If you
was
just
there.
listen to the words.
If you listen to the words, it's very deep. And so I was driving home, and I remember like talking about how make it zoom into the eye and the reflection of the eye, and I was like, how the hell am I gonna do that?
Yeah.
And I think it was the night before we released the video. I was pretty much on YouTube, like trying to make that happen.
Fucking searching it down. And, oh man, the beauty of the internet! I swear.
Yeah, just again, like, you know.
Yeah, one of my friends today just like they're like, you want to know? How about you just Google it? Here's a link. Bam.
There's
like,
nothing.
Oh, thanks, bro.
You can't find.
I won't ask you next time.
Like, I haven't found anything. Haven't not found anything on the internet.
Yeah, for sure.
You know. But net neutrality is
another
issue. Right?
Oh my gosh.
Hopefully that.
Let's hope it goes away. You know, and these lawsuits.
Yeah, you know,
like push it from ever happening, right?
Yeah, and I'm guilty for like just scrolling. I don't know what net neutrality is. I'm just Instagramming
until
right
it got voted on, right? You're like, oh,
everybody's
shit.
like, hey, you know what's gonna happen?
Yeah, and dude, Reddit was going off on that, dude, for like, I want to say like 9 months, bro. It was crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Everything, and they're like, oh, you're not taking this seriously now. And then July came around. They're like, you guys need to get on top of this. All these major companies are backing net neutrality and all this. And I was like, oh, my
you know, it's just a way to control the little guys.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
You know, that affects our industry. So I started getting into it when it was voted for, right?
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, you gotta like check this out. Like, how's this gonna affect you? And
yeah, but it kind of sucks because our Congress representative has no say in that, so we're fucked either way, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're just gonna be like, you know, dial up. That's nice.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
At least they get to appreciate my videos in extreme slow motion.
Back to 25 minutes for downloading a song.
Yeah, you know, you might hear the dial-up sound again.
Right,
I remember those days when you get excited about page loading.
Like or just the connection line by line. When the connection is initiated. Initiated. Like, oh, yes. Or established. There you go. Connection established.
Yeah. And it's
no one picked up the phone. Like no one called.
5 minutes. It's like still establishing, you know. We live in a great time, and you know, I don't think there's an excuse to not be a filmmaker if you wanted to.
Yeah, for sure.
I actually, because I work at Ukudu High School for GCC, you know, we started a film society. It's no longer in existence right now, but earlier when I was there, and like this whole Luther fiasco and stuff, students were like, "Can you?"
How was it a fiasco in a good way
in a good way?
Okay,
like students,
just a reaction, right?
All the students they knew like, oh, Mr. Munoz, like that's him, right? That's his name. Man.
Whoa, he's a badass. Right?
Yeah, you know, I was like popular in high school when I wasn't in high school. You know, I was like, wow, I'm popular again. It's amazing. What I always wanted. Too busy hanging out with the super seniors while I was in high school.
Right.
So no one wanted to be around them because they still rock the Terminator shades and everything. So, but it was a way to keep bullies off me.
Yeah, for sure, sure. But I got backup. They're 18.
Yeah, so students were interested. Like I remember, I was doing a presentation. A bunch of students just burst into one of the classrooms. And like, sir, we want to start a film club. Can you be our advisor? And I was just like, in the middle of a presentation, I was like, yeah, we'll talk about it. And I guess they took the part. They didn't get the we'll talk about it. And they started all the paperwork, right? And I was just like, oh, okay. So we had this film society. Mm-hmm. And I said, like, my main goal for that club was to teach students how to become better filmmakers other than just having the urge to just press record, because that bothered me. Like, if you're going to film a film and you're just going to press record, and there's no meaning behind pushing that button, then you're just recording something, you know, scanning something. Because, you know, I want to see a good spam commercial. Yeah. You know, I don't want to be an old man on Guam and watch really horrible commercials, you know, even if I've made some of them.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, you know, like, I'm not greedy with my knowledge, and there was a time when I was trying to reach out to other people, and because you're new, and I guess because business was kind of like a new thing for filmmaking. It's always been around, but for commercial filmmaking, it started to blow up with DSLRs, right? And so people were regarding like their filmmaking knowledge, but like you could really just Google it, you know?
Yeah.
So it was interesting. So in a way, like a lot of the guys that I'm working with now, some of us were working against each other because we were just trying to get this piece of pie.
Like I want to do it first.
Yeah, I want to do it.
I want to be the first one to do that effect or
yeah.
that
And it was
shot.
all about I'm going to be the first one. I'm going to get all these clients. And then later on we all realized like filmmaking, if we want to tell stories, if we want to make movies like movies and not commercials, then you need a team, and everybody's got a specialty, you know.
Right. Some people but not everybody's gonna be the director.
Yeah,
not everyone's gonna be the yeah.
There's some films where people ask me if I could direct it, and I'm like, I don't think I can. I don't think I'm the right person for this script. I mean, I could be cocky and say like, yeah, of course, I can make that
but no
awesome film.
Yeah, of course, but no.
But I have to feel it, you know.
Yeah.
I have to be either really convinced to do it or just really relate to it. Yeah. That's what I'm looking for. And I don't want to write all the films that I direct. I love directing films that I don't write because it just gets me like thinking in a different way. Recently we did the trailer teaser for My Xmas Story. I don't know if you saw it. It's in the
no
theater. It's on Facebook right now. I think it's like at 50,000 views, which is pretty cool. It's by
you want to is it long? How long is
like
it? Let's pull it up.
2.5 minutes.
Yes. You want to pull it up?
Yeah. I didn't direct it. It was Bobby Bonifacio Jr.
Is it on YouTube?
It's on Facebook if you go on Mabolo Drive. I hope I'm saying it right. Mabolo Drive.
Mabolo
Drive. Let's see. And I had nothing to do with the camera work. That was James Davis from Exigent Films, and Bobby was directing. He screen wrote it, and all I did, and I'm not gonna say all I did because some people might get offended. I was the gaffer. So a lot of the
what's a gaffer? Sorry,
I work on the lighting of the film. You know, the lighting concepts and stuff, and so it was different for me because it's a romance, rom-com, like comedy romance thing. Right.
So what is it called?
It's called My Xmas Story.
Yeah, it's not on YouTube. It's on Facebook. So you want to go to Facebook.
So here, let me just Mabolo Drive Pictures. If you search Mabolo Drive Pictures on Facebook,
MABOLO.
So, you know, this is like a perfect example of how I take a step back just to learn something else.
Right.
It's a technical side of it, and yeah. Oh, cool! You got like the Jay Leno TV.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's not even Jay Leno anymore.
Joe Rogan.
Yeah, Joe Rogan. I'm sorry, my bad. And I haven't watched cable in a while.
You gotta unplug. Hold up. Yeah, you gotta unplug the speaker in the back. Yeah. Then we'll be able to hear it.
I call
this. Shit! Turn it down. Turn it down first. Right there. No. The Matt, you gotta help him out here. Before you kill. No. You gotta there.
I'm just gonna watch.
Just
you guys
play it. Yeah.
In awe.
There you go. Just turn it down. Just turn it. Way too loud, dude. There, that one.
Don't you want to spend Christmas with your family? Why don't you go to San Diego and visit them?
I want to spend Christmas with you.
Jose.
Yeah.
Man, Jose's a real
He's everywhere now.
Yeah.
I was joking around about how many Instagram pictures I have of him lately.
Why is it a lot?
Just because he's been breathing.
He's in all your films.
You know, there's just so many. I was like, people might think I have a crush on him. Yeah.
He is a pretty good actor, man.
Yeah. You know, he's really like dedicated. I like that.
So here's how I do it on Guam. Everyone gets together. Everyone pitches in.
And so they're supposed to be in the States and.
Actually, you know, it's really based on in Guam, the setting. So the story basically is I'll bet that.
And you want to because
So they're just from different cultures and.
Yeah, she's from the Philippines. I think she's in the script. She's kind of new here, and then Jose's obviously a local, and he helps out her family a lot to the point where it kind of holds him back. And
Yeah.
so, without giving too much of the story away, it's like a love story slash,
Comedy. Yeah. Is this gonna be ready to be released anytime soon? Or?
Well, James and Bobby will be working on the feature treatment, and hopefully the team assembles together to finish this by Christmas 2018, which will be released in Tango theaters.
Nice.
Yeah, so it'll be like my first feature working on.
Little plug there. Hell
Yeah,
Hell yeah, I'm glad to do it. Yeah, go ahead. You can shut that
Thanks.
off.
Yeah. So that was just more like I had no hands on the camera. I had no directing in it. It was more like that light looks good on Jose.
Yeah.
Or Zane. Let's use that.
So that's sort of the role of a gaffer when it comes
Yeah.
down to that. It's where it's not
technically,
necessarily the guy holding the light, but it's a guy telling the guy holding the light.
Well, no, I mean, I actually, because in Guam, we
Oh yeah, it's limited, right?
I'll tell myself to move the light. It's kinda, we don't have a assistant.
Hey, light guy, move the light.
And then I'll
All right,
walk over there and I'll be like, yeah, sure. Where, Brian?
Yeah. Here?
Put it at 45 degrees. Can you imagine, like, people may think I'm actually crazy talking to myself like that just because I'm trying to fill all the roles.
Right.
But the cinematographer is actually, the overall guy.
Yeah, for sure.
In terms of lighting and composition. And when Bobby and James and I met, it was, I just want to put into perspective, like, I know I say I'm just the gaffer or just the lighting guy, but I asked Bobby to send me pictures of movie references of lighting that he actually liked. And so it was like a lot of Korean cinema type inspired lighting. And then he was even like, how you lit Breathe in the grocery store scene, because he likes the... Sorry, Bobby, I think I was trying to talk like you. I don't know why.
Pulling out the impressions.
I don't know. That just came out naturally.
It's the coconut water.
But yeah, it was a lot of research into how to light, because my films are more dramatic. It's not too, at least when I'm thinking of lighting, I'm thinking of a lot of shadows, but this one's more like romantic, so it has to be bright and cheery,
Yeah. So lighting really can, of course, right?
Yeah.
Then background can really determine whether a shot is going to be gloomy or not.
Yeah.
Of course.
And I always joke around and I tell my friends, I say, like, girls are really good with lighting. Like, you look at all their Instagram pictures of themselves, they got the angles down, right? But when the guy takes a picture, it looks like we're going into DOC. It looks
like we still took it with a cyber shot.
It looks like it was a cyber shot. I feel like we're just missing what kind of, our name with a mug shot. It's crazy, but girls have figured it out. Like, they know what lighting's best. They know their good side.
Yeah, my friend told me. My friend Pete told me. For lighting, if you can see the light in their eyes, the light reflection in their eyes, that means the lighting's good, right?
Oh yeah, you know what? Like, that was, man, you're good.
No, I learned these things. I learned these things
awesome.
from other people.
It's the benefit of having a podcast with all the artists, right? You get to pick up the art. But one of my favorite lighting scenes is the intro when Zane's looking, like, you could see the catch light in her eye.
Yeah.
Even though it's a side profile, and I was just like, that's my favorite light scene.
Yeah, he was saying that. Yeah, you have good lighting on you, but on me, it's kind of like questionable.
Like side,
yeah. So we got to fix the lighting here.
Yeah, I mean, you could put like a beadboard here, and then just blast the light into it, and it'll shine some catch lights into your eye.
Yeah.
So it's not about getting rid of shadows. I think in the beginning, a lot of people were like, let's light the hell out of this guy, and then it looks like
you can see the oils on his face.
Yeah, like, you could just, like, if you were trying to blind a deer so you could shoot it, like, that's how we lit.
Yeah.
I know the expression is lit, right? Like, that was super lit. Like, people were actually squinting, I think, in the earlier films, because they were just like, how much light do you need? So, it wasn't because they were crying or anything like that in a dramatic film, but yeah, lighting is very important. And it's funny because in Guam, some people get it, some people don't.
Yeah.
I see a lot of films coming out, and you know, I'm not trying to say that I'm the best filmmaker because I'm not, you know, but I say like if people really want to get into it, they should at least invest the time to hone the craft before, because one of the things I'm starting to see is people are going out and making commercials for businesses, and that's scary. Like some guy bought a DSLR and said, I'm going to make a business tomorrow,
right.
and I'm going to go and charge this company really cheap, and they'll get me because I'm trying to get business. So I'm going to undercut a lot of people that's been around, that's been training.
Right.
And I'm going to make a commercial and it's going to be good. And to have that mentality going in, and again, just pressing record, I have a problem with that. I'm not calling you guys out to fight or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, it's a problem. because that sets back the industry. Because, like you said, the industry on Guam is flat right now. And it's flat.
Whoa, don't quote that.
You
I'm not going to take that as a quote.
You mentioned in a way.
No, I didn't say it.
They're all gonna target you.
Yeah.
All three of us.
He thinks the film industry's flat. What the fuck?
Yeah. All 10 of the guys in the industry are gonna come out. I think you'll be like, "Whoa, I was right."
Yeah. In a sense, right? It's there were some high points, but it's not something that's backed by either the government or any agencies or any companies or anything like that, right? Everyone's sort of doing it on their own.
Yeah, and you know, Julius Santos, he was in Luther, and after Luther, and obviously he was in Shiro's Head, and I'm going to clarify this, a lot of people get me confused with the Munya brothers, because they made Shiro's Head.
Yeah.
A guy actually asked me for an autograph once when Shiro's Head came out, and I was at Primo Surf, and it was the cashier dude, and he was like, "Can I get your autograph?" And he brought out like the Marine Drive magazine, and they were both standing in front of me. He's like, "Can you sign it?" I was like, "Dude, do I look like any of these guys?" Like, really? Like, are you looking at the picture and me right now? Like, we are obviously two different people, or three different people, but it was funny, and that's like, you know, something a lot of people still confuse us about. But back to the industry part of it, you know, Julius Santos has had a very deep interest in trying to establish the Film Commission, and I hope I could say this on behalf. I hope he's not going to text me later like, "Why did you do that?" But I'm pretty sure he'd agree that a film commission is vital to the island, you know. And one of his arguments was, and if you look at New Zealand, right, with Lord of the Rings, was tourism skyrocketed because of
people wanted to go visit those sites,
like over 200%, you know. But Guam has that curse, and it's the curse of Max Havoc, you know. And the government invested in that, and I'm not too keen on like the political side of it, but they invested so much money in it, and maybe the faith was broken from someone that.
How long ago was that? I remember that.
It was like
2004,
2005. Okay. Yeah, and you know, a lot of us were still.
That's the Carmen Electra one, right?
Yeah, the one where she was like just gave the guy a raft and that was it. I actually watched the movie. Like someone ripped it off. I'm not gonna say who, and they showed it to me and I was just like, "Here, take back the DVD, man. It's so bad."
Yeah, I don't want this. I don't want my fingerprints.
I don't want to get arrested for a really bad film. Hey, what are you in for, Max Havoc? Oh, dude, that's bad. You know, like all the hardcore criminals are gonna back down. Like, leave that guy alone. He's gonna hurt himself.
You watched a bad movie.
Yeah, I can't wipe it from my mind. You know, Carmen Electra, like, here you go, and that was it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure there was more to it. Like she had a bathing suit on and stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
But ever since then, it was like the political side of it was, you know, like people were just shaken by it. And then you got Shiro's Head that kind of just helped revive it.
How much money went into that? Millions?
Man, I don't know. I read different figures, right? Yeah. But the last I heard it was like 300,000.
Oh, okay.
If someone gave me 50,000, I'd be making like a. You know, I don't think millions, you know. That would have been even worse. Like, I would have moved from the island because there'd be a Great Depression.
And good thing there was no Facebook back then because people fucking
and you know,
run amok.
I understand the fear of investing in people, but when it comes to investing in your own people, because these people that made Max Havoc, they weren't from our island, you know, they were from an industry. They understood the industry. I mean, the director made Cyborg with Van Damme. Yeah. That was like his only good movie, I think. Then I watched it. It wasn't as good as I thought it would be. You know, you go back in time.
Yeah.
But maybe they didn't do enough research. I don't know. I can't really blame anybody for it. But I think the film commission should be established because you got all these.
And that would come
filmmakers.
out of the government?
Well, you know, like in Hawaii, the government's involved. Like, I mean, if you just look at like Georgia, Atlanta, like Walking Dead's there, they established, the government established a film commission to provide tax incentives. And now everyone's filming in Georgia, you know? So if Guam had something like that, now I'm not saying like we're going to be booming in the film industry, like Hollywood's going to film everything here. I think we still have limited
but we still have
space.
the Asian market too.
But we do, yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, like the other good thing about it is that the Asian market is actually saving Hollywood right now. When a film tanks in domestic gross in the U.S., they go to China, and China will bring it back up to like $1 billion, you know? Like, that's why we still get the Fast and the Furious, even though we know it's really bad.
Yeah.
I still watch it, though. Just want to see what happens.
I miss Paul.
Yeah, I miss Paul. I really felt like he was missing in the last one.
Yeah, for sure.
But, you know, we have that gateway to them. But it's just no one's really, and there were a few guys I had to say, like, you know, I have to give credit to Julius and his office for trying to push toward that. But then when I think the government of Guam is looking at all the priorities, it's not the biggest priority.
For sure.
You know, so I hope that doesn't get me assassinated. Be a good short film, I guess.
Well, the arts always suffers when it comes to that, right?
Yeah.
On all forms.
And you got a platform now. You got the Guam Museum.
Yeah.
They have a theater.
Would a good solution be to send filmmakers out to other destinations to film?
You know, that wouldn't be a bad idea, actually. I think if they also tied in some connection to an industry in Hawaii, since they're pretty close to us.
Yeah.
You know, that would be good if we started sending our guys out there and to compete in, like, let's say a film festival like Sundance or Tribeca or even Cannes, you know. That would be awesome because you send a coalition. You know, we send coalitions all the time, right? Like for Pacific Arts Island Festival. What is it, like for sports?
Yeah.
So why not do that for the arts? Because when people think about filmmaking, they think of a guy holding a camera, but filmmaking for me is like, if there's a guy that specializes in sound, like let's say A Long Drive Home, if they started doing like background music for the film I'm doing, and then we hire an artist, like an actual print artist or painter, to paint like sets for us. You're getting all the arts in one medium. You know, you're combining all of them. So filmmaking is more than just a guy with a camera.
And it's supporting the other mediums by that sort of exposure, the band that's scoring the music or playing the music, or the composer that's scoring the music, right?
Yeah, or even a guy like yourself, you know, like you obviously have an understanding of the technicality of recording like voices and mastering it. And, you know, that was one of like our weaknesses in the beginning. We had to figure that out, you know?
Yeah.
So like every little thing counts in a film. And everybody's role is not a little thing. It's actually a very big thing. Like the makeup artist. You know, the reason why people were shiny in the beginning is because we didn't have makeup artists. Then you got like makeup artists coming out and like everybody's looking good, you know, on a film. I didn't realize that Nicolas Cage wore a lot of eyeliner until like I go back and like, that's eyeliner. Like that's what?
Gone in 60 seconds is ruined forever.
Yeah. That's true. But, you know, it's, I think if there was an investment in it, a deeper investment from the government and from private companies. And I don't want to come here and also sound like I'm just trying to get money from people, because I'm not. Like, if I wanted to go make a film tomorrow, I'll go make a film tomorrow.
Right.
I kind of gave up on asking for money. And there was a point where some of our friends were like, let's not do a film because we can't afford it. Like, it's going to come out of our pockets. And then for me, it's like, well, it's my film. I don't think anyone here is going to really support it because I'm more invested in it.
You ever tried a crowdfunding or anything like that?
Not yet. I mean, you know, it's something that we're looking into.
Shit. I might as well just mention it while we're on it. Patreon. I just got put onto that. Like I'm on that Patreon train, and it seems like a good medium for creatives, right?
Yeah.
And
I feel like I have to, in order to get a Patreon support, right? I might have to give something in return, right? Like a
film. Yeah. So like, okay, I'll put out for every 5-minute film I put out, you guys give me $2.
Nice.
Right? Or some
and that's
like
something,
that.
That's like, but most of the time, what I see from the cast and crew on Island is we're still happy to just, I feel
it's building.
I see the passion, like Jose hasn't asked like, hey, when are you gonna pay me? Because when they come into it, and I hate to like, have a meeting and say, there's this film we're working on and there's no budget.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, a lot of people are very understanding. I never get anyone to be like, well, my agent said I had to get paid like $150 an hour.
Talk to my agent. I ordered a trailer here.
Like, I could get you a radio flyer wagon, and and I'll be your assistant.
For sure. I mean, even though it's not, the film industry isn't where it could be, it's definitely building greatly, especially with the quality of films that are coming out. Mm-hmm. The technical side of how films are made. Yeah. It's all there, man.
Yeah, I mean, if you just, God, it's like, it's such a deep field to get into that you could actually get lost in it. And so, like, the other issue that we're having on Guam, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to get, like, political or anything like that, but it's like companies that are asking for filmmakers to produce commercials, they want it fast, they want it to look like $1 million, but they don't want to pay the rates that
they don't want to pay the $1 million rate.
Well, I'm not even asking for $1 million. I mean, but there's a certain threshold where you have to ask yourself, like, my time versus what I'm going to do for a company.
For sure.
And if
I think that's where an artists union would come into play. We always talk about musicians union and how bars, or venues charge people certain bands, pay bands different things based on how long they've been playing or whatever it may be. But it seems like it needs to be all across the arts and into one artist guild or something like that, right?
That might actually be better than just a filmmakers guild. I mean, we have a filmmakers guild, but it's not unionized. And I've heard the artist heartbreak too, like you're playing in a bar and they only give so much plus some drinks. At the end of the day, it's like, do you really want to just
and $250, right?
Yeah, it's like, wait, that's $250 for the whole band, It's like that's crazy.
$25 for you, $25 for you,
and here's your Heineken. On the house. Right. Like, yeah, of course, but people have families here. People have obligations, and if someone was gonna be like, hey, Brian, can you shoot this for like $500 because that's how much we only have. The way I hear it is, that's how much I think you're worth. Because the companies that make these commercials, they're getting like advertisement. You could run that ad forever if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I mean, Guam does it all the time. They should stop doing it all the time. There was a couple of ads in the mall where you just like, that was like from 1985 or something.
Isn't this person like 25 already?
That guy died. I shot his funeral.
Good tie around. Right? Good way to tie it back in.
And he was old.
Yeah. Oh man, that's too good. That's too good.
That's so bad. I'm sorry.
I'm like, that's too good. Like, oh man, that's bad. I shouldn't have said that shit.
I don't censor myself, but I censor myself. After I say it, I'm like, censor.
After it's done deal, right? Like, I didn't mean it.
How many people are listening to this? But if companies, and what I've learned is that if companies really care about their message, and it really comes down to storytelling. So that's where I kind of wanted to get to, is that a lot of us are not just filmmakers anymore. We're storytellers. And Guam has been a storytelling island, like our ancestors. It's like the pastime. That's how we handed down all the legends and oral traditions, right? We're a very oral culture. And I like to say that I'm a storyteller more than a filmmaker now. I've evolved from saying I want to make films to I want to tell stories.
And make someone else do the film?
No, I mean I'd still do the film because the benefit of it is that I get to translate the story now, how an audience should see it. You know, like people are gonna they'll probably make films and then they'll probably say like, oh, you know, like let's shoot this angle here and let's do an angle there, and it might not make sense because you didn't translate it well.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I don't know if that's making sense right now, but as a storyteller now, I get to say like, oh, you know what would make this enhance the story if we light it this way, or if we shoot it this way, or we make them sit on a couch.
Oh, so you're
know?
talking about telling a story not based on the script or the story, but based off what you're seeing.
A visual story. You know, like we're filmmakers on island are visual storytellers, or any filmmaker in general, right?
Yeah.
So
are you saying like you don't necessarily have to say words to like you don't want films to necessarily have a script?
Okay, so no, honestly, you don't. I mean, it depends. I mean, some people don't like that, right?
Yeah.
But the biggest moments in films are the moments where people are silent, or they're just looking. I like Ryan Gosling, not because he's a good-looking guy, because when you watch his films, in a lot of his films, he hardly talks. Like you watch Drive.
Wasn't there like a famous YouTube video of like people trying to feed
him? Yeah, and he's like doing this. Yeah. But I mean, look, you could actually make comedy out of a Ryan Gosling clip, you know, because he's not really saying anything. But the fact that this guy can act through his eyes, and in fact, the film that James Davis and I are gonna work on in about like a week or so, I wrote a 1-minute film, and there is no dialogue at all. It's like, but it's for 1 minute, so people will be like, okay, that's forgivable. Yeah, you know, it's daring to do it in a. If you watch Personal Shopper with Kristen Stewart, it got like a lot of rave reviews, right?
No, I never watched it. Yeah,
one of the most daring things they did was like film a 20-minute scene where she's just texting. It's like daring because there's no dialogue, like no one's saying anything, she's just texting.
Do you remember there was a film, I'm not too sure which film festival it was here, but it was a New Zealand guy his movie was it was a World War II battalion, and
was it during the festival? Pacific Arts?
Was it the? Oh yeah, it was.
Black and white, right?
Yeah, black and white.
That was really good.
And they kind of just sat there, and it was all silent because they were under fire, and they had to like stay overnight, and the dude farts and stuff, and
all those little like quips and things. Those are like moments. That's real life.
Yeah,
you know, like a character's not gonna talk like in a Quentin Tarantino movie. It's entertaining because he's really good with dialogue, but in most of our moments, you know, when we're talking, we're going to run out of steam at some point, and we're going to look at each other and be like, yeah, you know, anyway,
hopefully we haven't done that here tonight.
You know, I mean, well, not on a podcast, hopefully. Yeah, like, you can't be artistic for 20 minutes of silence on a podcast, and all you hear is because it's texting, you know.
Or like drinking a drink, I don't know.
Yeah, you know, every medium's different, right? But telling a story visually without having to say too much. And then this is the problem that I see on Island, and hopefully, again, I get hired from anybody after this interview, is that there's a thing I call over-branding a commercial, you know, where like, this is a product in our commercial. Here's the product again. And then there's the product one more time. And just in case you forget, here it is. Yeah. And you're just like, yeah, I get it. I'll buy that water.
Yeah.
At some point in my life. Or something like that.
Yeah, dude, I've always actually, you know how you say the visual sense, I've always wanted to tell a story with sound.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
You should do
no
that.
dialogue, and it was I came up with this maybe about 6 or 7 years ago. I'm you know, like I said in the beginning, I've always been into film. I've always wanted to make my own film.
Well, I mean, you talk like you know a lot about it. I feel like I'm interviewing you or something right now. So, you know.
And it piqued my interest because, you know, I really love music, and me when I write music, I love to tell sort of not a story per se, but I like to create an image, right? If you can create an image with words, why not with just sound, with music, with what you hear, so that you can literally close your eyes and sort of imagine what the vision is based off the sounds that you're given.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, I think you should do that. And honestly, it's one of the reasons why I liked working with A Long Drive Home. If you've listened to their whole album, you could relate. There's a visual that they put in there. And I think that's what makes it different from a lot of the songs I've heard. I'm not saying I'm not hating on any other band, because every band has a good song in them. But I just, maybe just because I've been working with A Long Drive Home pretty closely lately, and listening to all their albums, because we're trying to figure out what's the next music video. I feel like you said, the words aren't just spoken, they actually jump out at you, and they create they bring a memory back because it's relatable, and that's what you should do when you're making a film. And one of the things I learned about filmmaking is you use silence for powerful moments. You don't use loud moments to create the most powerful moments. You watch Avengers and everything's exploding and you're like, oh, that's cool. But then if a character gets hurt and there's a moment where it's just almost silent and the music gets softer, you're just like, oh, that hits you more. Yeah, because you're so distracted by this thing, and then all of a sudden it's silence, and then it's like golden, I think we need to use
it's like that what
more.
happened effect. Wait, what's going on? Makes you more curious.
Yeah, because it's now you're thinking, now you're trying to process what's going on with the character.
Yeah.
And I don't see too much of that happening here. And I understand commercial work, you want to promote a product, but if you're always putting it in someone's face, it becomes irritating. Yeah. It's like a telemarketer, they call you 50 times and they ask you, we want the same product. But if you just slowed it down and you don't always have to show your product, like stateside commercials, you watch them, there's something funny happening, has nothing to do with the product, and all of a sudden it's like, buy insurance, and you're like, and Geico did a really good job with that. It was like, oh, there's a guy walking
for years.
And we need to get to that point, but there's this
so it needs to go beyond commercials then, is that what you're saying?
I think it just they just need to be more secure with their branding.
Well, that's the only monetary drive for filmmaking here.
Yeah,
right.
Honestly, it's on Island. If you're gonna make money, and this is just to anybody that's trying to get into it, if you're trying to get money out of filmmaking, you make money commercially doing commercial work. I made a pretty good amount of money doing commercial work and weddings.
How do you break that mold though?
It's hard. It's hard because sometimes you try to be daring with a company and then they don't like it. And then it becomes this very political thing where it's not just one person in the company watching it. Then their higher up goes and watches it. And then someone else watches it. And then you have to think of that, they're all not filmmakers. They understand their brand, and I respect that. But when it comes to translating something to an audience, trust the filmmakers. Trust the storytellers that you're hiring. We're not just the guys that press record. And if that doesn't get me a gig after I say that tonight, I'm fine with that. Yeah. But please hire me, because I would love to make more films. Because every gig I get goes back into a film that I'm trying to make. Yeah. That's the honest way that I've actually been trying to support.
Well, it's almost like training then, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're training yourself. You're dabbling in new ideas with different concepts from different businesses that want certain things, and you're like, okay, well, I guess I can apply this to something that I want to put into my own film, or something that I.
Yeah, and if you ever shot a commercial for a company, you'll understand though, what not to do the next time you shoot a commercial and what you can do. And some companies now in Guam, very few are actually getting it. They're getting it. I've done a couple of Docomo commercials. I feel like they're getting it. They want to tell stories. And then sometimes it becomes that's good, but now everybody's trying to tell a story. All the other companies are trying to tell stories.
Oh, like those Docomo shorts that you're talking. That
I was able to get one of the Docomo shorts, right? On the first time. Yeah, the ballerina one. And that was cool because that was the first time a company actually said, you know what, hey, let's give a filmmaker a budget and ask them what they want to do with it in their film. And so we had a lot of freedom in terms of, except for the 1 minute timeline, to tell a story.
Can you sort of get a grant though from maybe GVB or the government to create films and stuff like that?
You can, and you know, like I'm not gonna say that like UOG's been supported Luther, GVB supported Luther to be released in the theaters.
Right.
You could get grants.
When? I want to know when. I want to watch it.
Oh no, that was like, it was funny because we released Luther and it was in 2015 and in December. Yeah. So we were able to pay for the theater through the sponsorships from like GVB, 76, Docomo, and but then like what happened was, I think there was like a fight the night before. And like hardly anyone showed up.
Oh no!
and you know what was funny was we had the whole like maybe 3 showings because there's a certain amount of time you have to pay to secure the theater because you're paying for every seat, right? So it's pretty pricey.
Right.
And a lot of people were like, "Yeah, we're gonna go to this. We're gonna go to this. We want to watch it." And I guess they were like, they messaged later on after the day was over because it was only for like 1 day because that's all we could afford. And they were like, "Oh yeah. I'll go there on Friday." I'm like, no, it's not like a regular movie where like we could have the whole theater for like a whole like 3 weeks or something. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
They're like, when is it gonna come out again? And we're like, probably not in theaters anymore.
Right.
But you know, I'm sure we're gonna release it, and I'm sure we'll get a lot of good.
At least
feedback.
on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean that can't be a bad thing.
No, it's not. It's just that all the guys that were involved in it, because I'm not the only one in Luther. I wasn't the only director. Right. I wrote it, but at the same time, I shared the load with Justin Baldovino and Anton Ngata.
What about like film festivals, foreign film festivals, going out to Cannes or going to Asia film festivals and stuff like that? What's the holdback from any filmmaker here on Guam having the confidence to stand on that stage?
I think it could be the confidence. I just haven't had a film yet that I wanted to submit off island, other than the one that James and I are working on right now. It's a 1 minute short for a competition, but my fiance did a Docomo short, Shoebox Memories. I shot that one.
That was the
DP.
Was that the cancer one?
Yeah. That one was accepted into Sioux Falls International Film Festival.
Yeah, that was the feels too.
Yeah, and you know, I was like, oh, that's cool. But they had a blizzard and they had to like stop the festival. So I don't know if anyone ever saw it, but we got the laurel and said like officially selected, and that was cool. I don't know if anyone saw it yet because of that blizzard at the time, but I don't think anyone's being really stopped from entering festivals from off island. In fact, I think a lot of people are now trying to reach out there because they feel like they might actually have a chance of getting greater support. And this is sad. This is sad for me to say as a local filmmaker, is that we want it. Like a lot of people are saying, let's just go out there because someone might, you know, reach out to us. And a couple of filmmakers on island have actually got contracted from people from off island that want to shoot somewhere close to island, and they contract filmmakers from Guam. Right. So there is that demographic, you know, that says, oh, you know, like if people are looking for filmmakers to shoot something somewhere in Asia and they need to hire like a U.S. citizen or something, they're gonna come to Guam.
Are there any permits for off island filmmakers to shoot on Guam, like taking visuals from the island that they have to obtain, or some kind of tax?
That is
like you were saying with New Zealand.
I think it's almost
Georgia or something like that.
I think there's procedures in place with the government, and I don't know too much. I'm not too well versed in it, but I do know that, you know, a lot of Japanese music videos, Korean music videos have been shot in Guam.
Yeah, a lot of karaoke videos.
Yeah, you're like singing karaoke and you're drunk and you're like, that's not. Yeah, that is Guam.
What the hell? That's a Putitano view.
That's where I barbecue on the weekends. But yeah, I think there are some things in place. I don't know if it's heavily enforced as far as permits.
Because there's no real full-scale productions going on here, right?
I know, like, places like any land that's federal so far, and some government areas like the parks, you might need permits now. But I think the government works pretty closely with those music videos, which is I don't know. I might be wrong, and I might shoot myself in the foot here, but it's a little sad because then when it comes to the little guys, it's maybe because we don't have the money.
Yeah.
But like those guys are, their industry is supporting them. And if you listen to the director of the World War film from New Zealand, New Zealand has a grant for filmmakers to tell their stories, to preserve culture, and that's the next step, I think, in evolution for filmmaking in Guam. I'm Chamorro, man. I love our Chamorro people, and it would be nice to have a budget and to have an actual local filmmaker, not just Chamorro, but a local filmmaker, someone that's grown up on Guam, to tell stories of our island that preserves our culture.
Yeah, especially preserving the new culture, right?
Yeah. And so it's if the government supports that, then that would be nice. I think they're trying. I just don't know how much of a priority it is.
Yeah, as you were mentioning earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I've actually started thinking like, okay, if I can't make a film, then maybe I'll write something and I'll send it off and start entering writing competitions. In fact, just recently I sent a pitch to a graphic novel that's coming out, and I got 8 pages to tell a story, so it's going to be published. And it's The Dark Reaches Volume 1 was a Kickstarter project in 2015. I don't know if you know the Walking Dead comics.
Okay.
Russ Wooten is the letterer for the Walking Dead comics.
So that's the original graphic novel that The Walking Dead was based off of, right?
Yeah. So he started a Kickstarter, and one of Guam's own, Sonny Chargaloff, who's a really amazing
Heroes
artist.
and Head Kicks.
Heroes and Head Kicks,
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
Follow him on Instagram.
I do.
Right? He's pretty awesome.
Impressive.
And
I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, he got contracted for that Kickstarter. It got funded. The graphic novels came out. I own one of them. And then later on, I was like, he said there was an opportunity to send pitches again because they want to do volume 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I sent a pitch, and I was like, oh, I'll just try it out. And I got like an 8-page spread just to tell a short story.
A part of the story.
A part of volume 2. So that's amazing, and it's not on island, it's off island. So
the reaches as a potential filmmaker or even a script writer doesn't necessarily have to stay here or be.
No, I don't think
you can be based here, but you can freelance out of here and be like, okay, well, I can give you some shots here.
Yeah.
Or maybe, like you said, 8 pages or stuff like that.
Yeah, and like telling stories for me is not limited to just making films anymore. It's writing, and I've been doing that for a while, and I don't know if I'm still the best writer, but I mean, it kind of like just solidified like, oh, maybe I got something because I sent a pitch. It's not the whole story. It's just like a little premise, like an elevator pitch. Like if I was standing with you in an elevator and you were gonna go to the 5th floor, I had like that much amount of time to tell you what my story was about.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a little take on the local culture. I brought it up a little bit, and it's a horror story. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. And they really liked it. So I'm hoping they really liked it. I mean, I was one of the ones that were selected. So that was like, okay, like now I think I'm going to do this more, because if I submitted to a couple of script writing competitions, filmmakers or producers from Hollywood are actually going to these little competitions now, and they're looking for the next big script.
Right, little scouts and stuff.
Yeah, otherwise they're going to keep filming Marvel movies and DC movies. And
I'm a big fan of indie films, man.
Yeah.
I like stuff that ain't the normal script or the normal plot setup.
Oh yeah.
And things that kind of like off the wall, whether it's about one guy or some kind of journey or travel, right?
Yeah, I mean, and usually they're very boring sometimes.
You ever watch The Air I Breathe?
The Air I Breathe. No,
it has a Lawrence.
Oh wait,
Forrest Whitaker. He's a character in there, and they oh God, how do I say this? They kind of bring to life different emotions. So love, hate, envy, and and then at the end they kind of tie them all together, and how all these people who were under these sort of different emotions, how they were all related and connected to each other.
Yeah, That sounds like a movie I'm gonna watch tonight.
Yeah, The Air I Breathe. I can't remember. I first watched it on Netflix back in like
Okay.
2009.
Hopefully it's still there.
8 or
If
9.
not, I'll check it
Yeah,
out on iTunes.
yeah, get it on torrent or something.
iTunes.
iTorrent.
You know, it's funny because I haven't like really torrented other than like my friend giving me a DVD of Max Havoc and saying, "Hey, watch this and keep it because I don't want it." It was like playing hot potato with that movie. I'm gonna joke around about it, Guam, because it was only like $300,000.
It's the bane to every filmmaker's existence.
But what do you call that? I hope the decision makers for that financing didn't like. Brian's never gonna get hired. Ever.
They might not be working for them anymore, so I don't know.
I mean, the way I look at it is, if no one hires me, I'm gonna focus on my own craft.
Well, yeah, man.
Yeah.
I mean, as artists today, I think what I'm seeing. A lot of people that come through the show, they're able to make a living, whether they're painters or
Writers,
musicians, filmmakers. Like people find ways, right? And there's a way. If there's a will, there's a way, and there's ways and means to get to where you need to be, right?
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know any artist is really starving on island. They're just looking for opportunities to keep creating.
Yeah, I think our most artists, filmmakers, like they have a day job and they sort of do their.
Most of us, some of the guys I know actually do this full time, so they're heavy into the commercial work. But
Okay.
For the most part, a lot of us are, we have our 8 to 5s,
Right.
our daytime jobs. Fortunately, I work in the school system.
Yeah.
In a way, so it's kind of like the summers and like Christmas break, like right now.
Yeah.
So when you said like, can we do the interview on the 29th? I was like, oh yeah, sure. I'm probably gonna be like watching
Chilling.
Netflix or something. That's why I was so quick to respond to you this morning. Like, yeah, please.
I'm actually not doing shit.
Yeah. Oh hell yeah! I'll do that interview. Gets me out of the house,
Dude, and that was like a month
I
ago.
grew like I haven't shaved. You could tell. Just like I let myself go.
Yeah, when I texted, I was like, man, I hope this guy's still on. That was like over a month ago we scheduled this.
No, I
thing.
mean I put it on a calendar.
Yeah.
I'm used to it, right? But I just like, well, I'm sure he's gonna contact me at some point. I don't want to be too needy and be like,
hey, I'm bored.
Hey, so is that interview still happening? But no, thank you for taking me out of the house. I had a headache, and I think it was just because I was watching too much Netflix or something.
Getting motion sickness off of
from like
60 frames per second, right?
Yeah, like binge watching, And it's not even a series. Like whatever plays automatically after the movie, I'm watching that.
You're committed, right?
Yeah,
I'm committed.
Like, I don't know what this is, but I'm gonna watch it. I have so much time. But I think like a lot of the artists on island, they're doing what they need to do, and actually, despite the setbacks, the artists on island I'm seeing, they're just doing it. They're just doing their thing.
Yeah.
Nothing's like you're doing your thing. No one's budget's not stopping you.
Yeah.
And I've been fortunate enough, to work with people. Like I've actually worked with Joan Awa in a video that I should be. I keep telling her that I'm almost done with it, but it takes me a while now to like try to get to it and finish it. But we have a video coming out, and then Misha Wong, before she left, I shot a dance video with her, so I'm trying to get that out. So there's things on my backlog that if I wasn't writing right now or doing anything else, like doing other work, then I would be able to focus on those and put them out.
For sure.
So 2018 should be a big year, I mean, I told myself 2018.
I love it. I hear it from a lot of people. They're like, oh man, I don't know if everyone says that every year, but
I said it last year. Okay. But I'm sure this year is really gonna happen.
But for some reason, I didn't hear it last year at all.
Yeah.
But for some reason, this year, multiple people are like, dude, 2018, my year, baby.
Yeah. I think it's just we're all old enough and wiser now, and we're just like, how much time did we waste just thinking about that next great project or waiting for the best opportunity?
For sure.
And I stopped thinking about like how's money gonna set me back, back to our conversation with Jace from a long drive home. I was like, let's flip a car and have a car accident. And he was like, I don't know if we have that kind of budget. And I was like, no, I have a way to do it.
Yeah.
And so I told him the way, right? I don't want to say it because, I have to,
trade
I don't want
secrets.
someone flipping a car next week.
Right.
And I don't want the government coming after me. It's
You just build a ramp.
Yeah.
And you just drive it on.
You get like
on
a $500 car. You cut from a Lexus to that really junked out car flipping. It won't make any sense. But I'm always looking for safe alternative ways to tell a story, but I'm also trying to like really just push myself. You talked about what would I do to make myself uncomfortable?
Yeah.
Like flipping a car, in a music video if we can.
Yeah.
Just because people will be like, "Wow, like how much did that cost?" And then we just be like,
yeah, I mean, it seems
free,
like I mean, it seems like music videos is the path forward, though, right? Making intense music videos. I've seen multiple filmmakers make music videos that are garnering at least 10,000 views, right? And what, A Long Drive Home's hit over 100,000?
And I think it's like at 200 now or something like that.
Yeah, man.
It's I don't really look at it too much anymore. I mean, I've seen it so many times before it was released. Yeah. Especially the eye part. But no, I the reason why I think it's successful, the music video scene, is and again, maybe we're not all like making money from it, but it's a story that can be told in such a short amount of time. And then because it's such a short amount of time, you have to be more creative. Like a lot of people think like making a long movie is hard. In fact, one of the criticisms I got when I first started releasing like some of my films on like Facebook and stuff were like, "Hey, your film's too long." And I was like, "What? That was like 8 minutes."
Yeah.
You go to like watch Lord of the Rings, it's like almost 3 hours.
Right.
But maybe it wasn't as entertaining. I mean, it's not
Right.
Lord of the Rings, right? I can't compare to that right now. But it's faster to pump out music videos, I think, than it is feature films. And it's sad because like, when was the last time Guam had an actual feature film that was released? Since Shiro's, and then there was like I Heart GU, which no one wants to talk about, and then there was like
because the right.
I don't mean to bring that up.
Yeah.
But that was the only other feature film, and then I don't even know what came.
I actually thought that looked like a really good movie, right?
Yeah. And I watched it.
But then again,
dude, honestly, I watched like every local film that probably came out. I watched, just because I'm highly supportive. I'm not like one of the filmmakers like, I'm not gonna watch anybody's stuff because my stuff's the greatest. I don't think that way.
I don't want them to ruin my style by influencing my thoughts.
I go and watch other people's stuff and I say, oh, I'm not worried. I'm just kidding. Like they're all like listening, like pissed off now. I just wanted to joke around with you guys. But no, I watch.
Don't be getting me in trouble.
Yeah. But no, I go and watch other people's stuff because I like supporting them.
Right.
And that's how I collaborate. Like I used to go to UOG theater to find actors. Like I just go watch any play just to see an actor. And that's where I know Julius was in Shiro's Head, but I saw him in a play in the UOG theater. And then one night he was at King's, and like a stalker or something, I went up to him and I said, hey, I want to work with you. And he was holding his like food to go, and he was just like looking at me like, who the hell are you? And I was like,
what?
I don't even know if he remembers that, honestly. He probably does, but I just said, I'm going to work with you. I don't know what it is yet, but it's nice to meet you. I'll contact you somehow.
That's all it takes, though, right?
Yeah. And I used to be very shy. I probably still am sometimes, but I found that if you just ask people, they just say like, sure. Like everybody that I've asked so far to do a film, they're like, oh wow, yeah, let's do it. And I'm like, oh, you're that excited to work with me? That's amazing. I didn't even know you realized. I thought I was one of the Munya brothers.
This happens all the time.
Maybe they think I'm one of the Munya brothers.
And then they show
like,
up, they're like,
yeah.
Wait, which one are you?
Where's the other one?
I'm Brian.
I'm Brian. And they're like, what?
Wait, I thought your name was Don.
Yeah. Oh, now you want to get it right. But I just found that just asking, and that was one of the biggest things, my biggest hurdles in the beginning was being afraid to ask people to do things. And I noticed like if you just stop like doubting yourself and you just ask people, they'll
swallow the pride, right? Yeah, dude. Same thing with this show, right? When I first started, it was very tough, even convincing people to be like, yeah, we're gonna talk for like an hour or two.
Yeah, honestly, I was like, oh, that's cool. I mean, you finally got a hold of me, but how much content do I have to talk about? That would be really boring. Like,
Yeah,
yes.
One of my friends, Peter Gervaccio, he's been on the show twice. I met him through the show, and the second time he came on, it's been a year, and he goes, "I don't know what we're gonna talk about." I was like, "Yeah, we'll figure it out."
Yeah. No, I like it. It's actually, you know, pretty comfortable. I feel like I'm in a counseling session.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
venting.
man, dude, one thing about this doing podcasts for me, it's become very therapeutic for me, right? Just unloading my mind and being able to pick into other people's minds and their brains and their framework and how they live, and well, you know, and see how we can relate and see what we're different at,
Yeah.
and but also see in the end we're all fighting for the same shit, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you were able to bring up in our conversation other artists and similarities, and that's amazing. And like, it's cool because you get to experience that. You know, like I feel like you're a counselor on a podcast. You know, like Frasier, but funnier and like better looking. And I'm not.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
You know, but it's kind of like counseling for me. You know, like that is my day job, and it is. There's rewarding moments and there's tough moments, but at the end of the day, I feel like, and this is gonna sound kind of weird, but I feel like I'm also collecting these stories. You know, like someone's story can be told as long as I'm not revealing any identities or anything like that.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I deal with a lot of people with hardships, right? So it's like it's real, you know, and I decided that that's the kind of filmmaker I want to be. Like Luther, he was an agent, and it seemed like there was like fighting and everything, but he's a real character underneath. He doesn't have superpowers. It's not Wanted where like he could like jump through windows onto other buildings because we can't afford that.
Right.
But it's
just a normal guy.
Just a normal guy. Like
eats ramen.
He actually gets beaten up. You know, he's not like the precise. He is perfect and precise in a way, but he still gets hurt. You know, and that's what I wanted. And every character that I've been writing so far, they all have some kind of flaw, and I feel like that's important because and maybe that's what I see, and I even see that in myself. Like I still have flaws that I'm trying to get over, and like you said, for you, like this is therapeutic for you. Yeah, filming for me is therapeutic. You know, as stressful as it is. Like people ask me, like, what do you have to take to become a filmmaker? I say, well, you know, you have. It's like that ex-girlfriend that you shouldn't go back to, but you keep going back to her even though you know it's bad for you. That's what filmmaking is like. You know, it's gonna break your heart like all the time.
It's just a life of misery.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, and it's very tense, man. Like
yeah, for sure.
People are so serious, and you know what's interesting is that it's tense still on Guam when we do films. And it's serious. Like Madame, Ruby Jane Buhain Radilla, she was the writer and producer of Madame, and she trusted me to direct her film. That was one of the most serious sets that I've ever been on. There was, like, all the scenes were so serious, you know? And it was kind of taxing. It was taxing. I'm not saying it in a negative way. It was taxing because everybody was just in this moment. Like, we were talking about, like, you know, women for sale and being held against their will, and it was like I can't just go in as a director and ruin everybody's day by like cracking a joke, right? Because it would ruin everybody's day. Like, right. Hey, this is a serious film, you know. And so it was one of the most tense moments on film, and it was one of the films that I thought, you know, like, is this something that I really want to do? And when it was over, I was so drained, and I was just like, you know, I think I'm
drained emotionally because you had to sit through certain scenes that were sort of taboo or controversial, or
not only emotionally, but I think it was physically, mentally, like just trying to, like, we were doing 13 15-hour days for a week, so like we would you know 13 hours a day back to back. That was the best way to keep the budget low for the film because we were renting some equipment. And in 13 days, when you're the director, you're like the first one on set. You're the last one to go. So you're helping everybody still try to load stuff and get home because you have a scene the next day. By the time I get home, I had, like, at the time, my son was like 5 months old, you know. And him and my fiance would be sleeping, and I'd just be like, I missed out on that day. And then I try to go to sleep, but I'm so like stressed out about what I need to do the next day. So I'd sleep for like 30 minutes, go over the script early in the morning, go back on set. And it was kind of like just insomnia and all that stuff. And I realized like, this is how it is, you know, like this is, you either really love it that much that you're willing to put yourself through it, or you hate it that much that you give up. And I've seen some people on island give up on it, and I feel sad when I see that, because some of them gave up because they weren't supported, some of them gave up because they didn't know how to start it. And I don't want anybody who's interested in it genuinely to give up, so I try to help out in whatever way I can, because the film industry thriving on Guam is not relying on me, it's relying on everybody still continuing. And the more people that give up, the more we lose the battle to create that industry. Instead of, I'm not quoting you, but instead of keeping it flat, you know, we try
no.
It's not
I know I said it. I know I said it.
No, it's
it
like,
was
it's
metaphorical.
Like the truth, you know? It's a true metaphor though.
Yeah.
Because it only spikes in the terms of like you know, wedding films have, you know, wedding highlight videos are now so cinematic. Like,
yeah, drone shot from the couple going up.
There's so much expectation.
So
And
the
it was
drone
like,
shot coming to the hotel room.
you know, I'm just like some A-list star's gonna pop in the next one, and you're just like, oh, how do they afford that guy? You know? But the demands are so high, and the expectations are so high. But the real work is like behind the scenes.
For sure.
Showing up on the day of filmmaking is only one part of it. And you would know too, I'm sure, and on the audio side, it's you're not done with this interview when I'm done.
No, I still got to sit here and do pre-rolls and end rolls and edit down the sound, look at the video, and
it's a lot of work. So I have a respect for any artist. Like, you know, when I was talking to Joan too while we were filming, she talked about like writing, and man, I just have so much respect for her because of the passion and philosophy she has behind it. You know, she lives it. Like if you're on her Instagram, she lives the lifestyle
for sure
that she talks about.
Yeah.
That's very rare, you know. And like James Davis, Anton, and Nata. You know, like I've been saying my best friend's last name wrong. Nata. It's Anton Nata. I've been saying Ngata. He was the one that actually helped me get into the commercial side of the business. Okay. You know, he was leaving off island. They needed someone to replace. I ended up doing it, and that's how I got into making money on it. But then, like, the older I got, the more I started looking at my son as I was, you know, as he was growing. I was like, man, people really have to pay me for my time if they want to promote their products now.
Yeah.
Unless I reach out to people and they're willing to collaborate, or people reach out to me and we have a mutual interest in creating art together, then I can respect that.
Yeah.
But if some company is going to come and say, this is how much we're going to give you and make a commercial, I have to really think about that now. Before it was like, I want to make money. Yeah. You know, I'm going to buy myself another camera or something. But now it just seems like,
how much creativity are you willing to lose?
Yeah. And I see it like
oh, that's amazing to say. Wow.
It's tough because I do want the work, but I don't want the work.
It's like a conundrum.
Yeah, I want people to, if I'm going to work for them, to really believe in their product, in their story, and have something for me. Because most of the time, a lot of times when people hire me, a lot of them don't understand what they want yet. Yeah. But then they want control of a commercial they don't understand. So it's interesting. It's a really weird place, you know. It's like, here's this idea, and they're like, oh yeah, let's do it. And then while you're shooting, it's like, let's change this and let's change that. And by the time it's done, it's like they put it in the blender, and then what came out was
not what you were thinking.
Yeah, and not even a solid idea. It's just mush, you know. It's like, you see it in the theater, and they're like, and James Davis, he always says this thing to me. It's like, yeah, you know, it may have been theirs, but you were part of it. And are you happy with it? And I say, yeah, you're right. So I started thinking about that. And Anton's the same way, you know, like we've gotten to a point where he's also taking a break from filmmaking. and we're hopefully
commercial filmmaking,
commercial,
or just
I know
altogether?
he still does some on the side too, but a lot of us guys now, we're not as hungry, except for the guys that do it full time. We're not as hungry to do the commercial work unless it's worth our time. And honestly, if there's a company out there too that doesn't pay me and I see them and I believe in what they do, I actually reach out to them and I say, hey, can I do a commercial for you?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, how much are you going to cost? Like, no, I want to do it for free.
Yeah.
And it's weird because I believe in that company. And so if I believe in that company and they trust me because I believe in what they're doing, then the collaboration is stronger than any amount of money that could be thrown my way. At the same time, if a larger company wants to hire me and they want like 100% control, which I understand, it's hard to let go your brand, and they don't want to pay for the time because, you know, some companies, they really want to keep the cost at a minimum, then I'm more inclined to say, no, here's another guy that could do it. And I've done it so many times that I think I lost a lot of business. Wow. So it's a philosophy.
Yeah, but it's very interesting that you're not willing to sacrifice your creativity for a certain amount of money. It speaks volumes about what you feel about your filmmaking process, and the process that you take to do it.
Yeah, I think it's just it's more hardy when people actually on both sides of the table can agree on something.
Yeah,
and maybe Hollywood has that to a standard. Maybe they have producers that believe in films because films make them money. Here in Guam, it's the reverse. Like, people don't believe in films because they don't think it's going to make them money. But look at, like, one of the highest grossing industries is, you know, the filmmaking industry. Yeah. Why aren't we on Guam able to catch that wave, you know? And the excuse is we're a small island, you know, we're limited on resources, but that's BS. Bullshit. When we made Luther,
I'll say it for you, it's bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, how the hell do you crack a bottle on a guy's head? Let's figure that out.
Right.
We cracked the bottle.
It's called candy glass.
Yeah, candy glass. Who knew? Sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't just go
sugar
in your mouth.
a mold.
Yeah, you could wrap it in a mold and crack it in a guy's head and put it in your mouth.
Right.
It's still safe.
Pick it up off the floor and eat it.
Not in the bathroom though, you know. That's where we cracked the bottle. But, you know, we were able to do a lot of things. People ask us, how did you hit that guy? We're like, well, we figured it out, man. Yeah. Like, we figured it out. And the next question will probably be, how did you roll that car, hopefully? And I'd be like, well, this is how we did it.
I think what's happening is that, you know, the filmmakers today, you guys are laying the groundwork for the future filmmakers. Yeah. And then as long as the art doesn't die, it'll only grow, right? And the only way it'll die or even plateau is if people stop making films.
That's true.
Yeah. Whether it's a 1-minute film, a 30-minute film, a 5-minute film, or an hour film, right?
Yeah. And I totally agree with you because, again, another friend brought it up and he said, you know, we have to lay the groundwork for the future generation. And I was like, no, I don't believe in just laying the groundwork, because if we're just creating the laws, if you took me out of the filmmaking community, you put me in an office just to create laws, to make films, I'm creating laws. I'm not creating films. How does that impact the community? We're just writing legislation now. You know, we elect officials to do that, right? And I'm not calling them out on it either. Maybe, I don't know.
This might be a subtle call out right here.
Subtle call out, but support the film industry.
Yeah.
Because if us guys that are in the filmmaking industry are taken away from doing what we want to do, then what film industry will we have at all? It wouldn't just be flat now. We'd just be like
trough.
Yeah, pretty much. And I don't, you know, I've been asked to talk about some things on, or maybe like, you know, advise on some things, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm not a policymaker, you know, I don't understand that stuff. I understand film. Yeah. So I trust in the politicians in that sense to come up with something fair for us locals. Don't make a film industry that kills the locals.
But that may be a problem too, is that the filmmakers don't want to decide what's fair for them. Yeah. They, you know, you guys want the policymakers to determine what's fair for them. All right, come up with something and then introduce it to us, and we'll decide whether we're gonna bark against it at the public meeting.
Here's something that a lot of people will hate me for. Maybe, if I say this, do I believe in permits? Because in the beginning, permits were an issue.
Mm-hmm.
When the first legislation, I believe it was from Tina Winnie Barnes, was put out about permits for filmmakers. I believe that permits are good things to have. It provides a responsibility to the filmmakers. Otherwise, we'd be hanging out of our cars, you know, driving at 60 miles an hour, and no one's safe because you're filming on a highway full of pedestrians or people that actually are using the road for public use.
Yeah.
And some people might be doing that right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, if you're going to introduce permits, don't make it so high in fees or anything, or so impossible for local filmmakers to get, because then that just stops us from making films.
Yeah.
So there has to be like a happy medium, you know?
Yeah.
So, but that's just like one of the political issues that, you know, I said, okay, you know, permits make sense, but not to a point where it kills the industry. You can't charge fees that are so high that we can't even afford it because we're trying to even make a film from like nothing. So, yeah, man, I mean, I don't know. Vote for me. I don't know. But keep me filming. I'm not running. I'm serious about that. Don't even write me in. That's like the biggest curse for me.
Yeah, man. You know, it's important. I think the arts is the personality of any place. Mm-hmm. I say all the time whenever I travel, the first place I go to is the art district because I want to see how their minds work, right?
Yeah.
What people are creating, and it changes from culture to culture, right? So.
You got that pose down,
right,
you got your chin down.
Yeah. It changes from culture to culture, right? So it's not gonna. If we don't nurture it now, mm-hmm. especially when whatever's happening is happening right now, with people wanting to be, being exposed with their thoughts, their creativities, their talents. If we're not nurturing it, then it'll never grow, right? Yeah. And it'll just everything will be flat. You know, it's not just the film industry. It's all across the board in the art world. Yeah, you know, in the arts, right? The film industry, I think, would represent the arts in a way. Mm-hmm. Even though the other arts have been around for a while, just because it's a very the most modern
medium.
Yeah, well, it's the most modern medium, right?
Yeah, and honestly, there are a lot of artists on island that I reach out to that are not filmmakers because I like just dabbling in their philosophies too. Like, this is an experience for me just coming on here. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Thank you.
So I'm learning from this, you know, like, dude, there's like so many cameras on here. It's like I'm behind the camera kind of.
Oh man, dude, you should have seen us when the first time we're like switching angles all the time and like always adjusting, always trying to like be on the move, right? We're not, and you know, it comes to a point where we were trying to be perfect, right? But it's never gonna be perfect.
That's actually, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, and I learned that from someone else maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago. They're like, dude, what are you waiting for? You're waiting for it to be perfect? No one's ever gonna see it. Then you're never gonna know what you need to change based off of your perfection. Yeah. And so that's why we're like, fuck it, live stream, let's do it. And if we have to change on the fly, we have to change on the fly. If something happens, if there's a misstep in the beginning or the end or in the middle, or the stream dies, then it happens. Yeah. It's an experience. If the stream is lagging or it sucks, then it's an experience too. And
should have worked out a little. I thought it was gonna be straight up podcast, shaved. Just, you know,
do like 50 push-ups.
I tried to get a haircut today, but they weren't available. So I was like, oh man. Well, at least it's a podcast.
Yeah. At least it's just audio. Yeah. Wait, what the fuck is
What's all these cameras doing in here? Oh, great.
Yeah, dude. It's cool. This is actually just very recent, within the last 3 or 4 months,
that's awesome.
Right? And it's just about that time. I've done audio for the last 2.5 years. It'll be 3 years in February.
Awesome.
So for thanks. And so 2.5 years, it was like, all right, same setup, same deal, same audio. We need a challenge, you know, and it needs to be challenged again. Yeah. What's another step that we can take in another direction? I picked these guys up. You know, they know nothing about like production or anything, but we spent the last 10 episodes, guys, 10, 12 episodes,
Making it happen.
making it happen. Learn the equipment, learn the technique, and it's not gonna be perfect, right?
Yeah.
And
Hey, good job, guys. Just want to say that. You know? I appreciate the crew is just as important as the person,
for sure,
leading the production,
right? And I tell them all the time. I was like, I need you guys.
Yeah.
I can't be here having a genuine conversation and be like, hold up,
Like,
camera 2, hold on, camera 3.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me look this up real quick. Switch camera. I don't have time. I can't do that. I'm not a robot, right?
Yeah.
And with these guys, it's like extreme help, right?
Yeah.
And plus, they cook dinner after, so it's always good.
Wow. I mean, shoot, the dinner is a plus. That's like the number one thing on island when
I provide it, and then, but sometimes I gotta give it to you. B had a couple of maybe a few times where he brought the chow and then he cooked it, and then, but tonight I got you boys. End of the year party.
There you go.
We got some fish.
End of 2017.
Right.
I hope my interview lives up to to all my 3 followers out there that like my stuff all the time.
Right. Until next week.
I'll try to find another Instagram picture to post. It's so hard to keep up my social media. I'm like, let me take a picture of this. So it looks like I'm doing something all the time.
social media is tricky.
Yeah.
Especially for a creative or trying to put out your stuff and let people know. I'm sure you grew up in the same generation that I grew up in which we didn't have smartphones.
No,
we didn't grow up with this. We didn't grow up doing this, like,
no, man.
yeah, like smiling and stuff at our phones. Nah, dude.
I tried to do it like a couple of times.
Or even talking into your phone. Yeah, dude.
Wow.
It literally took me this whole year to actually just be like, fuck it. Hey, what's up, guys?
Yeah, so Jay's tried to get me to do an Instagram story, and I did it, and it was such an epic fail. And I was like, oh, man.
You got to take the failures.
How can I make that better? Let me come back. Like, maybe something has to be exploding behind me and be like, I'm on set.
Look at me running through the jungle.
Just get a green screen. Transformers 10.
What's stopping you from doing any cultural films, such as Legends, Taltamonas, The Two Lovers, Serena?
Okay, so as far as The Two Lovers about to start, Ugin has actually, and Julius and I were actually in talks to, because he had a script that he had written, and it was a really good script. The issue with it, and this is going to contradict what I'm saying, is the scope of the work to make that feature film happen would require a budget. Because it's just you're recreating a period piece.
That's right.
And so, like, try asking a bunch of people, like, hey, can you make wardrobe for free?
Yeah.
Because the material's still going to cost something.
Yeah.
And then you're building a whole village to mimic an ancient time.
That makes sense.
So there would definitely need a budget. If anybody out there would like to fund it, hey, I'd be glad to be on direct,
Right. What is that? The cultural and humanities, or
yeah. And it would be it. So this is the hard part about the other side of filmmaking, is learning to be producing it, and just like now you have to wear all these other hats now on the political side of it.
Yeah.
And
go in and negotiate.
Yeah, negotiating, having many meetings, and some of those meetings go somewhere and some of them don't, and it's kind of like you're just fishing for every dollar. But if I was gonna do something cultural, which I haven't done, I always felt like it would be the most expensive films to make because I want to do it right. I don't want to shortcut anything because it's our people.
That makes sense.
I want to do it justice.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm going to go back to Max Havoc, if Max Havoc could have a $300,000 budget, if I had $20,000, I'd probably do something really good for the culture. I'm not saying that to be cocky. I'm just saying that because that's a budget to begin with.
Yeah, let alone 300,000, right?
Yeah. So I mean, if they invested 300,000 in a local legend,
maybe a bunch of filmmakers and should get together and sort of do a collaborative film that kind of goes out, right?
So that's the idea, is that with this film, we would look to hiring other filmmakers to work on this film, because all the other filmmakers, like I said, you know, I've built collaborations and networks with other filmmakers on island that are so serious about it that I feel like if we all just worked on it, it would just be a smooth train. And you know, you want, like, for me, the best on the island to be working on a film at this scope, because I mean, the way I would look at like the Two Lovers Point script, without giving any details away, because it's, you know, it's proprietary to Balthazar what he wrote, but if you just think of the Two Lovers Point in general, it's like an epic film, you know. It's not
like a Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah. So that's something that hopefully comes to fruition in the next couple of years. I don't know how long it would take, but you know, so far I'm attached.
Bar fundraiser.
Yeah, bar fundraisers, Jamaican grilled food plates, you know, like that's like very popular.
Yeah, chicken Calaguin,
you know, just, you know, hey, scratch and sniff things where like you scratch it and it's like, says, you owe me $10 now. Like, what kind of fundraiser is that? You don't even get anything. You just scratch it.
I like that. I like that. Here, take this card. You owe me $10. Oh yeah, you win.
Yeah, like,
wait, I win.
You win. I lose $10. I was hoping I got the $1 scratch, but I'm pretty sure there's nothing under there that's $1.
Instead of $10, it's minus $10. Like, what does the minus mean? Like,
just give it to me.
Yeah, just give it to me.
Yeah,
I take PayPal and Venmo.
Yeah, you know. You get more out of Patreon, you know, like you get some content in return. A scratch thing, come on, stop scratching, scratch fundraisers, please.
Yeah,
give something in return
for sure. Because
as a filmmaker, if people invested in our films, they're getting to be a part of that product, that film that's coming out. You know, they get to say, and I know it's hard to fathom.
I have something to do with this.
Yeah, I had something to do with it. I backed that. I made that become a reality. It's not just like, scratch this and give me money, you know. And I'm not saying that we should go out there and collect money. I think people that are investing have a right to be careful. I would. But for now, the short still, I mean, there's people ask me why I haven't done a feature film yet, and it's because I feel like I want to make sure that all the elements are in place, and I know that contradicts again the whole point of like just doing it. But I said 2018 is a big year because I feel like I'm close to that already. Like where I'm just like, you know what? Since 2015, at the GIF, Guam International Film Festival, I preached to the audience about, you know, supporting the filmmaking industry. I'm doing it now, but I don't think I can wait around anymore for anybody to back my films. I'm just gonna go do it, and I'm gonna do it with a bunch of.
Even if it takes people. 4 years to take?
Even if it takes 4 years. You know, there's indie filmmakers out there that have, like, it took them 10 years to make their film happen. And then it becomes, like, this huge hit. And some of them, 10 years, they realize that it's the worst thing they ever did. If you watch Crazy Stupid Love, Crazy For You or something like that with Anton Yelchin, the late Anton Yelchin, the filmmakers sold their house for $350,000 to fund the film.
Wow.
That's a big risk.
In hoping to get the return, huh?
Yeah, and they did. You know, they got recognition for the film. It did well at like Sundance. Yeah. So it was amazing. You know, there's like inspiring stories like that. So I might just move forward with making a feature without the compensation, because I think that if the passion and the creativity is there, then the money will follow. I don't know. Just, you know, again, preaching to the choir here, that me saying or sitting here with you or anybody or any politician or
it's gonna
in
change
front of
anything.
the festival is going to be like, yeah, you know, and then like festivals have become like a trendy place, you know, cool people want to show up, and I appreciate that. They want to be a part of something, but at the end, when they leave That's the festival, they leave it there, you know, they don't take it home with them. They don't hey, you know, what can we do? Let's save a panda. Like, right. And, you know,
great film. See you next year.
Yeah. Hey, what are you doing next year? When are you going to make the next film? I get that a lot. And I'm like, well,
we need money.
It's not like I could just go in my backyard and shoot it. I mean, I could. It's going to be really bad.
You want me to film myself just in a box? We can do that.
every now and then I break out my camera, and like my fiance and my son will be like sitting down, and I'll just like shine a light on her face while she's reading, and she's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, that looks cinematic," and I just filmed that clip. I'm like, "Yes, I did something for free, no budget."
No budget.
But you know, it's not something we could just pull out of our pockets.
For sure. And I see the struggle across all lines with all the filmmakers that's been on. It's like, we can't just do it. Yeah, it's people ask us, sometimes people want us to do it for free, but they have to really realize that it does take monetary value. It would take crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, and
that's just the truth. You know, we've come to that realization. You know, maybe when we were younger, we were like hungry and said like, "Oh yeah, we'll do it." Like anything goes. But now that we have like a lot of the filmmakers now, we all have like sons. It's amazing. Like we all had sons. Maybe they're gonna be the next generation. I don't know.
Yeah. Never know, man.
Yeah, you know. That aside, though, it's not gonna stop us from filming what we can right now.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm not here to bash anyone, even though it might seem like that's what I was doing earlier. The truth is, everybody's got priorities. I know our government. I work for the government. They're strapped. You know,
right.
How much more could they give up? I mean, you know, so it's really just, I don't know. I think we just need to do it. I just need to go out there and film something. And then afterward, maybe people will say, let's invest in that. Like with Luther, honestly, I went to companies and I said, we're going to make this film. I personally went to certain companies, and I even went to certain locations asking for permission. They're like, what kind of film is this? And I said, well, it's about an agent who kills people. He's a very violent guy. And, you know, there's some stabbing scenes and stuff. And they were like, well, we're a family-oriented business. So that was a no.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of no's before filming Luther.
Mm-hmm.
But after Luther, after the festival, it was like, oh yeah, we'll sponsor you for the theater release for that day. So it's pretty expensive, you know. But they were just like, yeah, we'll do it, because they saw the product.
Right.
So I'm thinking in Guam, it's the reverse. It's not you go to a bunch of producers with a script and they say, yeah, we're in. It's you take the script and you make it yourself. And then when there's a wave, they'll say, oh, we'll sponsor. It's like Bitcoin, you know?
Yeah.
Everybody wants it after.
Oh, no,
it's
the
popular.
dreaded Bitcoin.
Yeah, you know, just
down 11%, by the way, everybody.
I know, everybody's talking about it.
South Korea regulating shit.
So, yeah, that's perfect analogy. It's like Bitcoin.
Yeah.
You know, you want it after it's valuable, but you don't believe in it because you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
At least early in the beginning. So, you know, it's either you're a part of it or you're not. Yeah. And I don't blame anybody. Like, I know that a majority of our population, they're not really, you know, I'd say maybe it's a low population that actually really goes to the festivals and say like they really want to watch that stuff. Most people, you know, they want to watch Transformers. Right. And I don't blame them. It's entertaining, maybe. Well,
it takes having to put it in their face, right? Mm-hmm. Stick it in their face. Sponsor a post of a 3-minute clip that you made and target it towards Guam, so that all of Guam has to see it. Yeah. No matter what's everyone doing, right? They're all looking at their phone on Facebook, going down on the timeline. They're gonna see something like, 20,000 views. I'm interested.
Yeah.
From
and
Guam?
It feels like 20,000 views.
Yeah, that's that's 1/8 of the population.
Yeah, in a Fressy, like with Gloria Nelson, that blew up, and we were just like, oh wow, you know, we weren't expecting that.
Yeah, what was the concept behind that? Why take such a powerful anthem? Is it an anthem? Yeah. Powerful anthem, and put a soft touch into it.
Well, you know, when Gloria, we call her Glo, right? But Gloria Nelson was, and her sisters, Laura and Selena, they sat down with me and they were talking about their ideas, and Glo was like very into the land, and she actually like planted trees when she was a kid. Now they're huge trees. So like the trees in the scene where she's picking, like she planted those trees when she was a kid. There's a lot of those trees.
Wow.
And they talked about being one with the land and all that stuff, and like, you know, just it was everything that I believed in the Miss Earth should be. So when I was sitting there and I was like, okay, because initially I've gotten like a couple of Miss Earth requests, but I always look at like how deep into it they are and like whether they wanted it or not.
Is it just
like,
for the title?
Is it just
or
for the title?
Yeah.
So I actually believed in her. And then for some reason I was just like, oh, you know what? Like what we always said when we were kids, the Unifresi. And that's exactly what, like, when you're talking to me. Yeah.
Unifresi.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, it was like, I grew up with that. I was a cultural dancer. We recited that.
Yeah.
And when she was talking about her beliefs and her concepts, because that's how the interview, it was more like an interview for me to see whether we could do a video or otherwise it's just going to be like, you know, just her picking up trash. I just, the thing, and I'm sorry,
being
Miss
environmental.
I'm sorry, Miss Earth's future and past. But
not to demean your title, right?
Demean anything, but I just said to her, I have just the one rule. We're not picking up trash.
Right.
Okay, because everybody else is picking up trash. Like, we get it. People pick up trash. And you're smiling.
Mm-hmm.
And you're pretty.
Yeah.
And you're picking up trash.
In your high heels.
But what's your belief in all of this? Like, why is the earth important to you, or the island?
Mm-hmm.
And when she explained how she connected to the land she was and her family and their upbringing, the first thing I thought of was Unifresi. And it was a sad time because right when we said we're going to do the Unifresi, the next day, the author passed away of the Unifresi.
Wow.
And we were just like, I remember Laura calling me and she's saying, I don't know if we should do it because the author just passed away. And I said, you know what? All the more reason to do it.
Yeah, for real.
Because it was the best way to honor her. And the other thing was, Unifresi was always said in such a hard way, especially when I was a cultural dancer. It was like very hard.
Yeah.
But now you got a feminine touch. And, you know, like women in Guam culture, they were like the heads, right? So why wouldn't we get a female perspective on it, especially from a Miss Earth?
Yeah.
And it would just be the best message. So that's how, like, when I say like storytelling, I try to sit down with clients and I try to see like, what is it that you're really about? I know your brand. I know it's a shirt. But what does that shirt mean to you, you know? Like, does it mean something more than a T-shirt and $1 that you're going to earn? Because I'd like to know that.
Yeah.
And if it's just money for you to make, then no one's going to believe in it. They're just going to see that you're just trying to take money out of their pockets, right?
Right. So
I believed in that. And we came up with the concept. You know, honestly, in that shoot, we went to their property. And it was early in the morning. It was like 5. I called like a 5 o'clock morning shot. And we drove into that property where we shot the whole Unifresi. And I never saw that property before. Like, it was pitch black. So we had our headlights and we were just waiting for the sun to rise. And all I could hear is the waves crashing and everything, right? And I was just like, oh, the current must be really crazy today. But when the sun rose, and I was like so excited to shoot in a place that I've never seen before. And I think it just worked out. And maybe the author's spirit was with us on that day, you know? Like, she was like, I really want to see this. And, you know, I'm hoping we did her justice.
I thought it was great.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I don't know how we tangented off of that.
Sorry, that happens with me.
No, it happens on this show way too much with me. Some of my friends are like, dude, you need to start talking about, like, sticking to the topic.
Yeah,
it's
right.
Like, oh, it
what
just
topic
happened.
was that? What topic?
It just. I'm usually good at just bringing it back, but I totally forget what we were going. We've been at it a while, so
yeah. I know, like, the audience like has a threshold, right?
Yeah, a couple hours here. Yeah.
Like, whoa,
Yeah,
sorry,
dude.
guys.
No, dude. We're good. This is the show. This is how it goes.
The whole season of 2018 right here.
This is how we close it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I guess we were talking about jeez, I don't even know. But anyways, dude, yeah, we've been going at it. I think that we are living on a great foundation of the film industry. However, even though it's not, well, I just said however, even though it's not there exactly, it's going to grow because of guys like you, the Moon Your Bros, Mighty Island, Yeah.
Those
You're
guys.
Anton. I never met them before.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm just going off of the people that I have like actually spoken to, and it's a great foundation,
Yeah.
right? Justin, there's the dudes from Inspire, right? Dreamstorm. So yeah, a whole bunch of people who are really pushing this movement. I think it's there, dude. I think it's there. It's just not. It's not where people think it should be.
Yeah.
But it's there,
it's
and
there.
yeah, and it's growing. It's a perfect foundation of everybody who's involved in growing this industry in years to come. Right?
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think we're all just happy to be filmmakers,
Yeah.
whether there's a budget or not.
Yeah.
So, I thank you for being on this show, and I hope that whoever's listening actually had some valuable insight. And hey, if anybody ever wants to sit down with coffee with me and just talk film, I'm always down for that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Totally
Yeah.
got distracted over there.
No worries.
Jeez.
What's that?
Yeah. No, it's my sister and her dog. Yeah. You want to put anything out there? How can people follow you? Your next
sure.
films? Anything you want to plug?
Brian Munya Films on Instagram. I think I'm more active on that. So if you want to follow me, I try to update that as much as possible in terms of like what I'm doing in the future. Yeah, I mean, that would also be a good way to contact me through. If anyone's interested in filmmaking, I'm always willing to share my knowledge, what I have, and just keep filming, man. Like, you don't have to. I'm not like the guru of filmmaking, like there's a lot of other guys out there. Reach out to one of the filmmakers on island and just start filming and stop pressing record. That's all I gotta say, I guess.
Really think about it. Plan. Fail to plan to fail.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. And failure's a good thing.
It's okay,
Yeah,
right?
It's all right.
For sure.
I love failing.
Yeah. Thank you, Brian. I really appreciate it. Last episode of 2017.
Awesome.
That's great.
Wow.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Yeah. Thank you for listening. As always, don't forget to support us on Patreon, because we on that train, that Patreon train, we going. Yeah, you'll hear at the end roll how you can do it and all the details. But thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you for listening. Peace out, everybody.
I can't say peace out and stuff because I might not